Sports Professor Rick Horrow. Beyond the scoreboard, beyond the boardroom, big issues in sports, $750 billion business of sports, and we're heading into the French Open, and we talk about international sports across the pond. We've talked about how the big agencies take advantage of this time to do business. The axis between Paris and London between mid-May and mid-July, about 75 to 80% of all of the world's business deals are done or renegotiated or validated around these two middle-of-the-year majors before we head into New York for the fourth one. But the sports bracket market alone brings in about $25 to $30 billion worldwide. About $6 billion comes from the U.S. One of the things that we focus on this show is how players who are successful on the court transfer, translate, transition into entrepreneurs off the court. Andy Ram, a former pro tennis player, three-time Grand Slam champ, went from center court to an office and launched Pulse Play, the first complete social ranking and racket sports scorekeeping wearable of its kind. We got talking about tennis, majors, Israeli tennis, Israeli soccer, and Pulse Play. We got a whole lot to talk about, Andy. How are you?
How are you? Good. Wow. What an opening.
Yeah, well, listen, you deserve it. So first, let's talk a little bit about where you are and what you're doing at this very moment. I think the viewers and listeners would be interested.
Well, since I retired, it was like a year ago since I announced my retirement. And 6 months ago, it was my last match in Davis Cup against Argentina in September. That was my last match. I won the doubles. We lost the tie. But then was like my officially last match as a professional tennis player. As you said, I travel a lot all over the world. I was like in all countries, all continents, all tournaments for many, many years. I did it for 15 years. I was traveling and playing professional 16, actually. And that's it. I finished my professional career now. And like you said, most players, when they retired, what the first thing they do is they go and they coach. That's the most, that's a comfort zone. That's what they know to do best, and they stay in their comfort zone. Most of them, the soccer players, basketball, everybody, sportsmen. And, through my last year when I thought about the retirement, from the day I announced until the day I actually stopped, I had a lot of time to think about things and what I want to do. And this is when the Pulse Play came up. The idea came up to me to stay involved with tennis, but in a different way, to do it on a business way. And it's still like Pulse Play, as you know, it's a wearable connected to tennis, and it's going to change the amateur experience of tennis players or racket players at all, like ping pong, squash, badminton. And so I'm still going to stay connected in tennis, but I wanted to try and to understand, learn, and experience the business world a little bit. And I think I did a good transaction so far. I've been very lucky to work with a great team of people that helping me, leading me, teaching me every day new things about technology, about social media, about tennis even, a little bit. But,
well, you can always
I can bring my experience and yeah.
You can always learn more, and the best entrepreneurs in the world are the ones who are never through learning. And obviously, that's a very important opening statement from Andy Ram, who won 3 Grand Slam championships, but really kind of a entree into what he's doing now. Give us a little bit of a kind of an elevator speech about what Pulse Play is all about and what it's intended to do.
So Pulse Play, as I said, I traveled a lot. I realized there are 2 big problems. The first problem of amateur players is they forget the score. They fight over the score. They always argue. They have 1 hour the course for 15 minutes. They argue 40-15, no 30-40, no 40. They start to argue. This is the first problem. The second big problem I realized is that most of the players, they can't find players at their level to play with, opponents. Most of the players, the amateurs, they play with 1, 2, 3 friends they have in their club, and they don't know any other player. So if they go on vacation, for example, they can't find anybody. If they go at their own club, they can't find some other players to play with. And this is why I came up with Pulse Play. This is exactly what Pulse Play does. It's basically a smart wearable which connects to your app, to the iPhone, to the smartphone on the side of the court. And the smartphone is going to be now the scoreboard for you. I'm trying to bring the professional experience into the amateur world. So I brought there like the announcer. Is like I used to play with the Wimbledon announcer calling my score. I didn't have to worry about it. So I put up Obama as an umpire, Elvis Presley. I put 50 different voices of announcer for you. Like I put the scorekeeping. You're going to press the button on your wearable, and you're going to have the score immediately on the wearable and on the app on the side of the court. And I put the match history. When I used to play Federer, Djokovic, Nadal, before the match, I always knew when I played against them, who won, what was the score. I knew exactly. So I brought it to the amateur world. Before you're going to play with your friend, me and you, we're going to play. We're going to know exactly who won. In our case, obviously, it's going to be you. but those are the experiences I brought. Then I took it to another level. Once I have all the match history recorded, so I took a professor, a great professor, a math professor from the Technion, one of the biggest universities in Israel, and together we are building a world ranking system. Well, it's not together. He's building it, and I'm just supporting. He's the smart guy and bring all the algorithm and everything. But the main idea is to create a ranking, like according to the results, the games you're going to play against your friend. We created a local ranking, a national ranking, and international ranking. So now, no matter where you are in your club, country, in the world, you're going to always find somebody at your level to play with, which is very important at your level, because nobody likes to beat somebody 6-love or lose against somebody 6-love. You want to play with somebody you can compete against. And this is the main idea of Pulse Play, if I have to say it in short.
Yeah, well, it's a good idea. Now, maybe you're wrong because I like to beat somebody 6-0, but it doesn't happen often. That's part of my life. The bottom line of all of this, though, is that Andy Ram, calling us from Israel today, by the way, Yahoo Finance, Beyond the Boardroom, Beyond the Scoreboard. What is the hardest thing that you have experienced, Andy, making your transition from being an active on-court player to a businessman?
To be honest, the most difficult thing was to buy clothes. I have to come with the jeans now to a war. I used to come with shorts and shirts, t-shirts, with everything, sports shoes. Now go and buy all the suits. And
do you know how to work an ATM machine? Do you know how to get cash? Do you know how to write checks?
So you see, those are the difficult things I have now in life. Learn everything from the beginning. But
yeah.
I mean, there are many similar things. Like you said, sports and entrepreneur, come startup to open a startup. It's kind of the same. When I started as a kid, and a small kid started 5 years old playing tennis, nobody assumed I'm going to be a success or winning a Grand Slam, winning Wimbledon, holding the Australian Open trophy. It's the same like with startup. When you start a startup, most of them are failing. Nobody knows really who's going to be successful. And this is the beauty of it. You start and you just work into it. You believe in what you do. And no matter what and who's telling you what, you keep believing in it. It's just coming from the tennis world, the same. Like people that put a big X on Andy Ram, that he's not going to do well, he's not going to be successful, because when I was 20 and 21, 22, I wasn't as good as after. So I don't know. There are many, many similar things that I'm bringing from the sports world into the business world, I'm calling it. So it's very similar. I like it. I like the energy waking up in the morning. If I do it with good energy and I believe in what I do, I do good things. At the end of the day, I can't fail. And this is something that I definitely do. Come with passion to work and enjoying every day that what I'm doing. I can change actually the experience of amateur players around the world. It's something big. I was competing in a global sport. It wasn't like a national sport only in Israel. Tennis, it was worldwide. I was performing all over the world, which was making it much more fun, much more big than what's just, tennis playing in your own club. And this is exactly what I'm trying to do here in the business world, trying to create something big that is going to touch people all over the world. And I don't know, I'm really excited about it.
Well, you should be.
As you can see,
you have other people excited about it as well. We got a couple of minutes. Just two more questions for you, if you don't mind. First, what do you think the difference is today from, let's say, 20, 30 years ago as far as the off-court awareness and intelligence of the touring professional, other than the top 4 or 5? The average touring professional, does he or she prepare do they have the skills, there to succeed today, as opposed to before? What do you think?
It's a great question. You know what? Because sports, it's not only in tennis, it changed a lot. You can see it, like if you watch old cassette tapes of football and basketball, even tennis, obviously. Like the sport changed. It's much more physical today. It's much more mentally. So let's say if you take tennis, for example, when we started playing tennis 34 years ago, when players used to travel alone, and then they added the coach, and then they took their physio, and then they started taking their psychology. And now today, every player, big player, They have this mentor next to them. If it's Lendl, if it's Becker, if it's Edberg, it's somebody, it's a big guy. So the tennis always develops. It's like developing today. It's a mental sports, like the mental side of the sport today. It's crazy how important it is. You can see it in tennis so clearly these days when Djokovic controlling the tour. But it's not because, like, if he's going to hit with Federer from the baseline or with Nadal, with any other player, it's the same level. If somebody doesn't understand tennis, he's going to see two players hitting the shots, they're at the same level. Once they start playing the points and moving, mentally, he doesn't miss shots. And when it's crucial times, when he gets to the third set, he's going to win. Those are like mental skills that, you're creating with people, with experts for like mental skills. It took Boris Becker, not because Boris Becker is going to improve his forehand or backhand. It took Boris Becker because Boris Becker is going to work on his mental side. When you have Boris Becker on your bench, like, you get stronger. You can't lose a match. When you have Stefan Edberg on your side, you can't lose a match. So those are the reasons why the top players keep developing and trying to keep for another extra percent of what's going to make the difference between them to the other players. And, as I said, it's developed so much if it's a coaches and a physio, and then everybody starts taking their private stringer that's going to string the racket, the exact tension they like every match. If you play wind or sun, if you play with a little bit of rain. So, those little things are making the difference at the end of the day. Like small details, each percent is making the difference in top level. And listen, the sport becomes very physical and mental. It's developing there. All the technology they're bringing, the experts for physical and mental. So no doubt about it.
Amazing inside perspective from former tennis player turned significant entrepreneur, Andy Ram. Pulse Play. Watch it, buy it. He's going to be in a very important part of this space for years to come. Rick Horrow, Sports Professor, Yahoo Sports Radio, Yahoo Finance. See you in a couple of minutes.